Park walked through the crowded streets of Station with his hands in his pockets and his head down. He had no money. He had no ship. He had nothing left except the clothes on his back and a small bag with his personal things. 3 months ago, he had owned a shipping company. He had 5 cargo ships, 20 employees, and a good life. Then the Galactic Trade Council changed the rules. They said humans could not trade in certain areas anymore. They said it was for safety reasons, but everyone knew the truth. The alien corporations did not want human competition. His company died in 2 weeks. His ships were taken. His employees found other jobs, and was left alone, wandering the orbital stations, looking for any work he could find. Today he had come to the junkyard district. This was where the poor and desperate came to look for things to sell. Old ship parts, broken machines, anything that might be worth a few credits. Stopped in front of a large screen that showed the daily auctions. He did not expect to find anything good. The best items always went to the big corporations, but he looked anyway because he had nothing better to do. The screen showed hundreds of items: old engines, damaged hull plates, medical equipment that no longer worked. All of it was junk that nobody wanted. Then he saw something strange. At the bottom of the list, there was an item that cost only 1 credit. 1 credit was equal to about $1. You could not buy anything for 1 credit, not even a cup of water. The item was called Hangar 17. Touched the screen to learn more. The information that appeared made him frown. Hangar 17 was located in the old section of Station. It had been sealed for 300 years. The hangar contained an ancient human warship from the First Contact Wars. The ship was called the Indomitable. But that was not the strange part. The strange part was the warning at the bottom of the listing. It said that 12 previous owners had bought Hangar 17. All 12 were now dead or missing. The Galactic Auction Board was not responsible for any accidents, injuries, or deaths that might occur after purchase. Read the warning 3 times, he should have been scared. Any smart person would walk away from something like this, but was not scared. He was tired. He was hungry. And most importantly, he had stopped caring about his own life a long time ago. He pressed the button to buy Hangar 17 for 1 credit. The screen made a small sound to confirm his purchase. A few people nearby looked at him with strange expressions. One old man shook his head slowly. "You bought the cursed hangar," the old man said. "You must want to die, young man." Did not answer. He just took the access card that came out of the machine and walked away. The old section of Station was dark and quiet. Most of the lights had stopped working years ago. The air was cold and smelled like rust and old metal. Nobody lived here anymore. The station managers had decided it was too expensive to repair, so they just sealed it off and forgot about it. Walked through empty corridors for almost an hour before he found Hangar 17. The door was massive, made of thick metal that had turned black with age. There were warning signs all over it in different alien languages. Some of the signs were so old that the words had faded away. He put the access card against the reader. For a moment, nothing happened. Then there was a loud sound of machines waking up after a long sleep. The door began to open slowly, and dust fell from above like snow. The smell hit him first. It was the smell of old things, of forgotten things, of a place that had not been touched by any living being for centuries. Turned on his flashlight and stepped inside. The hangar was enormous. His small light could not reach the walls or the ceiling, but he could see enough to understand what was in front of him. The Indomitable lay like a dead giant in the center of the hangar. It was a warship, but not like the modern ones. This ship was rough and ugly and built for only one purpose: war. Its hull was cracked in many places. One of its engines had exploded at some point, leaving a massive hole in the back. Its weapons had been removed long ago. Walked around the ship slowly. He was looking for anything valuable, anything he could sell, but there was nothing. The ship was completely worthless. Whoever had stripped it had done a very good job. He sighed and sat down on a piece of broken metal. Maybe the old man was right. Maybe he did want to die. Why else would he buy a useless hangar with a useless ship? He was about to leave when he noticed something on the floor. Footprints. There were footprints in the dust. They were small, like a child's feet, and they were fresh. They could not be more than a few days old. Felt his heart beat faster. The hangar had been sealed for 300 years. Nobody should be here. Nobody could be here. But the footprints were real. They led from the main entrance of the ship deep into the darkness inside. Stood up, his common sense told him to leave, to go back to the station and forget about this place. But something else, something stronger, told him to follow the footprints. He walked to the entrance of the ship. The door was open, hanging from broken hinges. He stepped inside. The inside of the Indomitable was even darker than the hangar. His flashlight created a small circle of light that moved with him as he walked. The walls were covered with old screens and control panels, all of them dead and dark. He followed the footprints through corridors and rooms, past the sleeping quarters where soldiers once rested, past the medical bay where the wounded once lay, past the command center where officers once gave orders. The footprints led him deeper and deeper into the ship. Then he heard it. A child's laughter. It was soft and quiet like a whisper, but it was definitely laughter, the laughter of a little girl. Stopped walking. His hands were shaking. His breath was coming fast. For the first time since he entered the hangar, he felt truly afraid. "Hello," he called out. His voice echoed through the empty corridors. "Is someone there?" The laughter stopped. For a long moment there was only silence. Waited, his flashlight pointing into the darkness ahead. Then a voice came from behind him. "You are not afraid." Spun around and almost dropped his flashlight. A little girl stood there, looking up at him with curious eyes. She wore an old pilot's uniform that was much too big for her small body. Her hair was long and black, and her skin was pale, almost white. But the strangest thing was that he could see through her. She was not solid. She was like smoke or mist shaped into the form of a child. Who are you?" asked. The girl tilted her head to one side. "My name is," she said. "I have been waiting for someone for a very long time." "Waiting for what?" Smiled. It was a sad smile, the kind of smile that children should never have. "For someone who would not run away," she said. "The others always ran away. Will you run away too?" Looked at this impossible ghost child. He thought about his empty life. He thought about his dead dreams. He thought about his daughter, who had died 5 years ago in the Great Plague. Had been 7 years old when she died, the same age as this girl seemed to be. Slowly knelt down so that he was at eye level with. "I have nowhere else to go," he said quietly. "So no, I will not run away." Studied his face for a long moment. Her dark eyes seemed to look right through him, seeing everything he had lost and everything he had suffered. Then she reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cold, so cold that it hurt, but did not pull away. "Then come with me," said. "I want to show you what I have been protecting." She led him deeper into the dead ship and followed without question. He did not know it yet, but his life had just changed forever. The $1 hangar was worth more than all the treasure in the galaxy. And the ghost child holding his hand was the most dangerous thing in the universe. His hand was like holding ice. Could feel the cold spreading up his arm as she led him through the dark corridors of the Indomitable, but he did not let go. Something about this strange ghost child made him want to protect her, even though she was clearly not human anymore. They walked for several minutes in silence. The only sounds were footsteps and his breathing, made no sound at all when she moved. She floated slightly above the floor, her feet never quite touching the metal. "How long have you been here?" finally asked. Did not look back at him. "I do not know exactly. I stopped counting after the first 100 years." 100 years, felt his stomach twist. You have been alone for 100 years. Longer than that, much longer, but I was not always alone. Sometimes people came, people like you. His voice became quieter. But they were not good people. They wanted to take things. They wanted to use me, so I made them go away. Remembered the warning on the auction listing. 12 previous owners, all dead or missing. You killed them, he asked. His voice did not shake. He was surprised by how calm he felt. Stopped walking. She turned around to face him, and for the first time, he saw something like guilt in her eyes. I did not want to hurt anyone, she said, but they would not listen. They wanted to take what I was protecting. I could not let them do that. Do you understand? Looked at this ghost child, this impossible being that had existed alone in the darkness for centuries. He thought about what he would do if someone tried to hurt. He thought about the anger and fear he would feel. I understand, he said. Sometimes we have to do bad things to protect what we love. Stared at him for a long moment. Then something changed in her face. The suspicious look faded, and she almost looked like a normal little girl. You are different from the others, she said. You are sad like me. She started walking again, pulling him along. They passed through a large room that had once been the ship's mess hall. Tables and chairs were scattered everywhere, covered in dust. On the walls, there were faded pictures of people in military uniforms, soldiers who had fought and died long ago. That is Admiral said, pointing to one of the pictures. It showed a tall man with a serious face and kind eyes. He was my grandfather. Looked at the picture. Admiral was a legend. Every human child learned about him in school. He was the commander who had saved humanity during the First Contact Wars. When the Empire attacked Earth's colonies, everyone thought humanity would be destroyed. But Admiral had held the line at the Battle of. He had fought against impossible odds and given humanity enough time to build more ships and train more soldiers. The history book said that Admiral died when his flagship was destroyed. They said the Indomitable exploded with all hands aboard. No survivors. But here was, claiming to be his granddaughter. The history books say everyone on the ship died, said carefully. The history books are wrong. His voice was flat. We did not die, we were lost. There is a difference. She led him to a door at the far end of the mess hall. Unlike the other doors on the ship, this one was clean. No dust, no rust. It looked like it had been maintained somehow. Touched the door with her free hand. A soft light appeared around her fingers, and the door slid open with a quiet hiss. Behind the door was a room that took breath away. It was small, maybe 5 meters across, but every wall was covered with glowing panels and strange machines. In the center of the room was a glass pod filled with blue liquid, and inside the pod was a girl. A real girl, not a ghost. She looked exactly like, the same long black hair, the same small face, the same pilot's uniform, but this girl was solid. This girl was alive. Her eyes were closed and her chest rose and fell with slow, steady breaths. That is me, said the real me. Walked closer to the pod. He could see that the girl inside was frozen in some kind of sleep. Medical displays on the pod showed her heart rate, her brain activity, and dozens of other measurements he did not understand. I do not understand, said. If you are inside this pod, then what are you? Moved to stand beside him. She looked at her own sleeping body with an expression that was hard to read. When the battle happened, our ship was badly damaged. We were far from any help. Grandfather knew that we would not survive long enough for rescue to come, so he made a choice. She paused, as if the memory was painful. There was a room on this ship that contained alien technology, technology that we had taken from a science vessel. It was dangerous. Both humans and had agreed to destroy all copies of it, but grandfather had kept one. What kind of technology? Asked. Mind technology, said. The ability to copy a person's thoughts, their memories, their soul into a machine. They invented it thousands of years ago. They used it to make their soldiers immortal. When a soldier died, their mind would be uploaded to a new body. They could never truly be killed. Felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard rumors about such technology, but he had always thought it was science fiction. Grandfather used the technology on me, continued. He put my body in this pod to keep it alive, and he my mind into the ship's computer system. He wanted to protect me until help arrived. But help never came. No, the war ended. Everyone thought we were dead. Nobody came looking for us, and the technology, it changed me. I became part of the ship. I can control everything. I can see everything. But I am not human anymore. I am something else. Something in between. Looked at the ghost beside him and the body in the pod. Two versions of the same girl, separated by 300 years and technology that should not exist. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Why do you trust me?" Was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "Because you have kind eyes like grandfather, and because you are broken like me. The others who came here, they wanted power, they wanted money. They looked at me and saw a weapon or a treasure, but you looked at me and saw a child." She turned to face him fully. Her form flickered slightly, like a bad video signal. "I have been waiting for 300 years for someone who would see me as a person, not as a thing. I was beginning to think that no one would ever come." Felt tears forming in his eyes. He thought about how she had looked at him with complete trust, even at the end, even when he could not save her. He knelt down so that he was at level. He looked into her dark, ancient eyes. "I see you," he said, "and I am not going to leave you alone." His form flickered again. For a moment she looked like she might disappear entirely. Then she became solid again, more solid than before. "You promise?" she asked. She sounded exactly like what she was, a scared little girl who had been alone for far too long. "I promise." Stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Her embrace was cold enough to hurt, but hugged her back anyway. He held this impossible ghost child while she cried tears that had been waiting 300 years to fall. Above them, the machines in the walls hummed to life. Lights that had been dark for centuries began to glow. The ship was waking up, responding to some motions. And somewhere far away, in the offices of the Galactic Auction Board, alarms began to ring. Sensors had detected massive energy signatures coming from Hangar 17. Signatures that matched classified records of technology that was supposed to be destroyed. Within hours, powerful people would learn that something valuable had been found in the old section of station. Within days, they would come to take it. But did not know any of this. He just held and let her cry, promising himself that this time he would not fail. This time he would protect the child in his arms, no matter what it cost him. The galaxy had forgotten about the Indomitable and its ghost. Soon it would remember. And it would learn to be afraid. 3 days passed after found. In those 3 days, he learned more about the true history of humanity than he had learned in his entire life. The first contact wars had not been what the history books said. The Empire had not attacked humanity because they were aggressive or evil. They had attacked because they were terrified. Showed him everything. She could project images and sounds directly into his mind, sharing her memories like watching a movie. He saw the war through her grandfather's eyes. He felt what Admiral had felt, and slowly he began to understand. They were an old species. They had traveled the stars for 50,000 years before humanity even learned how to make fire. They had built great empires and watched them fall. They had seen hundreds of young species rise and die. And they had learned to be afraid of one thing above all else: species that grew too fast. When the first discovered humanity, humans had just invented the airplane. 100 years later, humans were building starships. 100 years after that, humans were spreading across the galaxy like a wildfire. No species had ever advanced that fast. not even themselves. They watched humanity with growing fear. They saw how humans fought and died for each other. They saw how humans never gave up, even when the odds were impossible. They saw how humans loved and hated with an intensity that they could not understand. And they decided that humanity had to be stopped before it was too late. The first contact wars were not a conquest. They were an attempt to destroy humanity before humanity could destroy everything else. But they had made a mistake. They had underestimated human determination. They had not understood that humans would rather die than surrender. And when Admiral stood against the entire fleet, something changed in their hearts. They became afraid of something worse than humanity's growth. They became afraid of what would happen if they killed humanity. Grandfather recorded everything, said. She was sitting next to on the floor of the command center. The lights were dim, and old screens flickered with images from the past. He wanted someone to know the truth. He believed that one day humans would need to understand each other. She touched one of the screens and a new image appeared. It was Admiral sitting in this very room recording his final message. He looked tired. Blood was on his uniform. Behind him, alarms were ringing and smoke was filling the air. "If you are watching this, then we have failed," the Admiral said. His voice was calm even though death was coming for him. "The Indomitable is dying. My crew is dead, but I have managed to save one thing, one precious thing." He smiled, and his smile was full of love and sadness. "My granddaughter is 7 years old. She came aboard because her parents died in the bombing of Colony 5. I was all she had left, and now I am leaving her too." The image showed Admiral standing up and walking through the damaged ship. He entered the room with the glass pod, where the young was already sleeping. "I have used the technology to upload her consciousness into the ship systems. I do not know what this will do to her. I do not know if she will still be human when she wakes up, but I know that she will survive, and that is all that matters to me." He touched the glass of the pod gently. "I have given her one order, one final order from her grandfather, her admiral, and her only family. That order is to protect herself until someone worthy comes to find her, someone who will see her as a child, not as a weapon, someone who will love her as I love her." Admiral turned back to the camera. His eyes were wet with tears he was too proud to let fall. "Whoever you are, whoever is watching this message, I ask you one thing. Please take care of my. She is the last good thing I have ever done. She is my hope for the future." The recording ended. The screen went dark. Sat in silence for a long time. He could not speak. The weight of what he had just seen was too heavy for words. Was watching him with those ancient, dark eyes. She had seen this recording many times. She had memorized every word, every expression, every tear that her grandfather had held back. "I tried to follow his order," she said quietly. "I protected myself. I waited for someone worthy, but 300 years is a long time. I started to think that no one would ever come." She looked at the frozen body in the pod, visible through the open door. "Sometimes I forget what it felt like to be real, to breathe, to feel warm. I remember being human, but it feels like a dream, like something that happened to someone else." Reached out and put his hand on her shoulder. His hand passed through her slightly, but she seemed to feel the gesture anyway. "You are still human," he said. "Maybe not your body, but your heart, your soul, the part of you that loves your grandfather and misses him, that part is still human." Looked at him with surprise. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. "Do you really believe that?" she asked. "Yes, I do." A small smile appeared on his face. It was the first real smile he'd seen from her. "Grandfather would have liked you," she said. "He always said that the best humans were the broken ones, the ones who had suffered and survived. He said they were stronger than anyone else." Thought about his lost company, his dead daughter, his empty life. Maybe Admiral had been right. Maybe all that suffering had prepared him for this moment. "What happened after your grandfather recorded that message?" asked. Smile faded. "He went to the bridge. They were coming to finish us off, but grandfather had one last trick." She touched another screen, and a new recording began. This one was from the ship's external cameras. The Indomitable was barely alive. Fire was burning in several sections. The engines were dead. The weapons were destroyed. Around the ship, hundreds of warships circled like sharks waiting for their meal to die. Then something happened. The Indomitable began to glow. A strange light pulsed from its core, spreading outward in waves. The light touched the ships and they stopped moving. They just froze in space, unable to fire or advance. "Grandfather activated the alien technology," explained. "All of it. He used it to create a field that stopped time for everything nearby. He sacrificed himself to protect me." In the recording, the glow became brighter and brighter. Then it faded and the Indomitable fell dark. But the ships did not move. They were frozen, trapped in a moment that would last forever. "The time field does not work anymore," said. "It burned out after a few years, but by then everyone thought we were destroyed. They told the galaxy that they had won the battle. They did not want anyone to know that a single human ship had stopped their entire fleet." She waved her hand, and all the screens went dark. "That is the secret I have been protecting, not just myself, but the truth about what humans can do when they have nothing left to lose." Stood up slowly. His mind was racing with everything he had learned. The first contact wars, the alien technology, Admiral's sacrifice, all of it was more important than he could have imagined. "This changes everything," he said. "If the galaxy knew the truth, they would be afraid." Finished. "Both humans and aliens, that is why I have kept it secret. But now," she looked at him with hope in her eyes, "now I have you, and maybe together we can decide what to do with the truth." Before could answer, a loud alarm began to ring throughout the hangar. Red lights flashed on walls that had been dark for centuries. Form flickered with sudden anger. "Someone is coming," she said. "Many someones, and they are not friendly." She grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the entrance of the ship. "How do they know we are here?" asked. "The machines I turned on. The energy signature was detected. I was careless. I was so happy to finally have someone to talk to that I forgot to be careful." They reached the entrance of the Indomitable and looked out into the hangar. Through the ancient doors, they could see lights approaching. Dozens of lights. And behind the lights, they could hear voices speaking in languages that were not human. The galaxy had found the Indomitable, and it wanted what was inside. The first visitors arrived within hours. They were not soldiers, not yet. They were merchants and diplomats and corporate representatives from a dozen different species. All of them had detected the energy signature from Hangar 17. All of them wanted to know what had been found. Stood at the entrance of the hangar watching them approach. There were tall and thin with skin that looked like living crystal. There were Marathi, small and round with too many eyes. There were covered in thick fur, their voices like thunder. And leading them all was an ambassador named. He was older than the others, his crystalline body showing cracks and repairs from centuries of life. When he spoke, his voice echoed through multiple frequencies at once. "Human," said, stopping a few meters from, "you are the owner of this hangar." "I am," replied. He tried to keep his voice steady. He was just one man against representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy. "Then you know what is inside, and you must know that it cannot remain in human hands." Behind, hidden in the shadows of the ship, watched with invisible eyes. She had made herself completely invisible, but could feel her presence like a cold wind on his back. "What exactly do you think is inside?" asked carefully. His crystalline face could not show expressions, but his voice carried a smile. "We detected the energy signature of forbidden technology. Technology that was supposed to be destroyed 3 centuries ago. Technology that could restart the wars that almost destroyed us all." He stepped closer, and his followers moved with him. "We are here to offer you a choice. Sell us the contents of this hangar, and you will become wealthy beyond imagination, or refuse and what?" asked. "And we will take it anyway. The Galactic Council has already approved emergency action. If you do not cooperate, you will be removed." Looked at the crowd of aliens in front of him. He counted at least 50, with more arriving every minute. Armed guards stood behind the diplomats, their weapons visible but not yet raised. "I need to think about it," said. "You have 1 hour." Turned and walked away, his followers going with him. They set up a temporary camp at the far end of the hangar, watching and waiting. Went back inside. The Indomitable, as soon as he was out of sight, appeared beside him. "They will not wait an hour," she said. Her voice was calm, but he could see fear in her eyes. "They are afraid of what I am, afraid of what I can do." "What can you do?" asked. Hesitated. "When I killed the previous owners, I used only a small part of my power. I made them see things that were not there. I made their hearts stop. I gave them nightmares that never ended." She looked down at her ghostly hands. "But I can do more, much more. I am connected to the ship's core, to the alien technology that created me. If I wanted to, I could destroy everyone in this hangar, everyone on this station, maybe everyone in this entire system." Felt cold. He had known was powerful, but he had not understood how powerful. "But I do not want to," continued quickly. "I am tired of killing. I am tired of being a weapon. I just want," her voice broke, "I just want to be a normal girl again." Knelt down in front of her. "Then we will not fight. We will find another way." "There is no other way. They will never leave me alone. They see me as technology to be controlled, as a weapon to be used. They do not see me as a person." "Then we will make them see." Stood up and walked back toward the entrance, followed him confused. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Something stupid, but it might work." He stepped out of the ship and called out to the waiting aliens. "I want to talk to Ambassador, just him, no guards." There was movement in the crowd. After a few minutes, walked forward alone. He stopped a few meters from, his crystalline body glowing slightly in the dim light. "You have made a decision?" asked. "First, I want to show you something." Turned to the empty air beside him. "Can you come out, please?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then appeared, slowly becoming visible like morning mist forming a shape. She stood beside, small and pale, looking up at the towering alien with frightened eyes. His body pulsed with sudden light. His followers behind him made sounds of alarm. Guards raised their weapons. "What is this?" demanded. "This is," said calmly. "She is 7 years old. She has been alone on this ship for 300 years. She is not a weapon. She is not technology. She is a child." Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, less confident. "That is impossible. The technology we detected does not create children. It creates tools, weapons, things without soul or will. Your people invented that technology," said. "Maybe you do not understand it as well as you think." Stepped forward. Her form flickered slightly, betraying her nervousness. "I remember being scared when they attacked our colonies," she said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I remember crying for my parents when they died. I remember my grandfather holding me and telling me everything would be okay." She looked directly at. "I am not a weapon. I am a granddaughter who misses her family. I am a girl who has been alone for too long. I am human. Nothing your people did to me changed that." Stood frozen. His crystalline form had stopped glowing entirely. Behind him, the other aliens were whispering to each other. Some looked angry. Some looked confused. But a few, just a few, looked at with something like sympathy. "What do you want?" finally asked. His voice was barely above a whisper. "I want to be left alone," said. "I want to stay with. He sees me as a person. He treats me like a daughter. No one has done that since my grandfather died." She looked back and her eyes were full of tears that could never fall. "I do not want to hurt anyone, but I will protect my family. That was my grandfather's last order, and I will follow it until I stop existing." The hangar was completely silent. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Turned to look at his followers, at the guards, at the representatives from a dozen species. Then he turned back to and "The Galactic Council will not accept this," he said. "They will send soldiers. They will try to take the technology by force." "Let them try," said quietly, "and see what happens when you threaten a human's family." Studied him for a long moment. Then something strange happened. His crystalline body began to shimmer, and a sound came from him that might have been laughter. "You are either very brave or very stupid, human." "Maybe both," admitted. Nodded slowly. "I have lived for 3,000 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species destroy themselves over less than what is in this hangar." He looked at again. "But I have never seen a human look at a weapon and call it a daughter. I have never seen someone throw away a fortune because they do not want to be alone." He turned and began walking back to his followers. "I will tell the council what I have seen here today. I do not know if it will change anything, but I will tell them." He stopped and looked over his shoulder. "You have made a powerful enemy today, human. The Galactic Council does not like being told no. They will come for you eventually." "Then we will be ready," said. Made that strange laughing sound again. "Yes, I believe you will." He walked away, and slowly the crowd of aliens began to leave the hangar. Not all of them went happily. Some looked angry and some whispered threats, but they left. When the last alien had gone, turned to. Her form was more solid than he had ever seen it, glowing with soft light. "You refused 10 billion credits for me," she said. There was wonder in her voice. "You made enemies of the entire galaxy for me." Smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. "I already told you, I lost one daughter. I will not lose another." Threw her arms around him. This time her embrace was not as cold. This time it almost felt warm. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me." They stood together in the entrance of the ancient warship, father and daughter, human and ghost. The galaxy would come for them eventually, had been right about that. But for now, they had each other. And sometimes that was enough. The fleet arrived 3 weeks later. Was sleeping when woke him. Her hand on his shoulder was colder than usual, which meant she was scared. "They are here," she said. 50 warships, more coming." Sat up and rubbed his eyes. He had been sleeping in one of the old crew quarters, on a bed that had somehow repaired using the ship's old maintenance systems. It was not comfortable, but it was better than the floor. "How much time do we have?" he asked. "They are already at the station. They are moving through the old section now, maybe 30 minutes before they reach the hangar." Stood up and stretched. He should have been terrified. He was one man against an army, but he felt strangely calm. Maybe it was because he had nothing left to lose. Or maybe it was because he knew was stronger than any army. They walked together to the entrance of the Indomitable. Through the hangar doors they could see lights approaching. Many lights. And this time there were no diplomats, no merchants, no representatives. Only soldiers. "They are not here to talk," said. "No, they are not." Looked around the hangar. There was nothing he could use as a weapon except an old pipe wrench he had found in a storage room. He picked it up and tested its weight. It was heavy and solid. It would not do much against alien soldiers with energy weapons, but it was better than nothing. Watched him with worried eyes. "You cannot fight them," she said. "There are too many." "I know." "Then why are you holding that wrench?" Smiled at her. "Because I am not going to hide behind you. If they want to hurt my daughter, they will have to go through me first." His form flickered. For a moment she looked like she might cry. "You really mean that?" she said. "It was not a question." "I really mean it." The first soldiers entered the hangar. They were, their crystalline bodies covered in armor that glowed with energy. Behind them came heavy troopers and Marathi scout units. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons pointed at the indomitable. Leading them was a general. He was larger than the others, and his armor was decorated with symbols of rank and honor. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the hangar. "Human, by order of the Galactic Council, you are commanded to surrender the technology in your possession. If you resist, you will be destroyed. This is your only warning." Stepped forward. He held the pipe wrench in both hands, feeling very small and very human. "The technology you want is a little girl," he called back. "She is scared and alone and just wants to be left in peace. I am not going to let you take her." The general made a sound of contempt. "A little girl? You expect us to believe that? The energy signature we detected could power a star. That is not a child. That is a weapon." "Then come and take it," said. The general raised his hand. Behind him, hundreds of weapons powered up with a high-pitched whine. "Fire!" The energy bolts flew through the air toward. He raised his arms to cover his face, knowing it would not help, knowing he was about to die. But the bolts never hit him. They stopped in midair, frozen like insects in amber. They hung there, glowing and deadly, just a few meters from his face. The soldiers stared in disbelief. The general's crystalline body pulsed with shock. Then the hangar began to change. Lights that had been dark for centuries came alive. Machines that had been dead for generations roared to life. The floor shook as ancient engines powered up deep within the indomitable. And appeared. But she was not a little girl anymore. She had grown. She was taller than the hangar, a figure of light and shadow that filled the entire space. Her eyes were like stars, burning with power that made the alien soldiers take steps backward. Her voice echoed across every frequency, every channel, every ship in the system. Every being within 1,000 kilometers heard her words. "You would harm my father." The frozen energy bolts reversed direction and flew back toward the soldiers. But they did not hit anyone. They curved around the soldiers and disappeared into the walls, harmless but terrifying. The soldiers panicked. Some tried to run. Some tried to fire again. But their weapons did not work anymore, had disabled them with a thought. The general stood his ground, but even his courage was failing. His crystalline body was flickering with fear. "What are you?" he demanded. Looked down at him. Her giant form was both terrible and beautiful, like a goddess from ancient stories. "I am," she said, "granddaughter of Admiral, daughter of Park. I am the guardian of this ship, and I am very, very tired of being afraid." She raised her hand, and every soldier in the hangar was lifted off the ground. They floated helplessly, unable to move or speak. "I could destroy you all," said. "I could destroy your ships. I could destroy your fleets. I could make your people forget they ever existed." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But I do not want to. I am not a weapon. I am not a monster. I am a child who lost her family and found a new one." She looked at who stood below her with his pipe wrench, looking up at her with pride and love. "This man saw a ghost and called her daughter. He refused a fortune to keep me safe. He stood alone against an army to protect me." Her voice softened, becoming more like the little girl had met in the darkness. "That is the human secret, not their weapons, not their technology, not their strength. It is their ability to love things that are not worth loving, to fight for things that cannot fight back, to adopt the broken and the lost and the forgotten and make them family." She lowered her hand, and the soldiers drifted gently back to the ground. None of them were hurt. "Go back to your council," said. "Tell them what you have seen. Tell them that this hangar is protected. Tell them that the ghost of the indomitable will not be controlled or destroyed." She looked directly at the general. and tell them that if they ever threaten my family again, I will stop being kind." The giant form of faded, shrinking back down until she was a little girl again. She walked to and took his hand, looking up at him with exhausted eyes. The soldiers did not move. They stared at this impossible scene. A ruined man with a pipe wrench and a ghost child holding hands, facing down the might of the galactic military. The general was the first to recover. He looked at his soldiers, at the powerless weapons, at the dead ships floating in space above the station where had shut down their systems with a thought. Then he looked at, "You are either the bravest man in the galaxy," the general said, "or the most foolish." "Maybe both," said. The general made a sound that might have been a laugh. Then he turned to his soldiers. "Fall back, all units fall back." They left, not running but quickly. None of them looked back. When they were gone, collapsed against, her form was weak and flickering. "I used too much power," she whispered. "I need to rest." Lifted her in his arms. She weighed almost nothing, like holding fog. "Rest then, I will keep watch." He carried her back into the Indomitable, past the old corridors and damaged rooms, to the chamber where her real body still slept in the glass pod. As he laid her ghostly form down next to the pod, looked up at him with tired eyes. "Do you think they will come back?" she asked. "Maybe, probably." "Are you scared?" Thought about it. He had been scared when his company failed. He had been scared when died. He had been scared for most of his life. But not anymore. "No," he said, "I am not scared because I have something worth protecting now." Smiled and her eyes closed. "Thank you, Father." She faded into sleep, her form becoming thin and transparent. Sat down beside the pod and looked at the two, the ghost and the girl. One day, he hoped, they would be one again. One day the real would wake up and take a breath and feel the warmth of the sun on her face. Until then he would wait, he would protect, he would be her family. Outside the hangar the galaxy continued to spin. Ships came and went. Empires rose and fell. Wars were fought and forgotten. But in Hangar 17, a broken man and a ghost child had found something that all the power in the universe could not buy. They had found each other. And that was enough. The Indomitable would never fly again. Its engines were dead, its weapons were gone, its glory was forgotten. But it had served its purpose. It had protected one small girl for 300 years, and it had given one lost man a reason to live. Some victories are not measured in battles won or enemies defeated. Some victories are as simple as a father holding his daughter's hand. And those are the victories that matter most.